you guys, we give out these little pieces of wood. This is actually a piece of wood from our ship. This is laminated, the beams from the ship. So if you give that to the captain, it's something a little different than the usual plastics you got, huh? Okay, thanks man, appreciate that. Okay guys, it's okay, you want to give a quick tour here?
I got a guy standing by.
Okay, okay.
That'd be fine.
Oh yeah.
Her career began during the Quasi-War with the French in the late 1700s. And then in the early 1800s, she fought the Barber pirates in North Africa, and her greatest battles occurred in the War of 1812. After that, she had over 40 engagements. The deck we're now standing on is known as the spar deck, and from this deck, all the sails are controlled. Now, it gets its name from the fact that all the masts and the yard arms, which held the sails, are collectively known as spars. Now, if you look up forward, you can see the foremast, and that one stands at 198 feet tall. Okay, the tallest one is the main mast in the center of the ship, standing at 220 feet, and the shortest one is the mizzenmast, all the way back aft, standing at 172 feet and 6 inches. Altogether, these three masts with both 36 sails, a total area of 42,710 square feet. Almost a full acre of sail. She generated about 660 horsepower. Okay, she could travel more than 13 knots. Now, if you look all the way forward, okay, you're going to see a square opening, okay, with nettings on them. There's one on either side. This is the ship's bathroom. Okay, this is why they call it the head, because it is located at the head of the ship. Okay, they built it up there for two very good reasons. The first reason is the ship is a sailing ship. All the winds will blow from aft to forward. This is to keep all the foul odor away from the crew. And bow, which is the front, okay, the bow, they pressure the waters. This would be the natural flushing system. Now, if you look forward, over here is the bell. Okay, back then, this was used to signal the time. The ship carried 30 young boys from ages 8 to 12. And one of them was up here with a sandglass that would run for 30 minutes. Every time that 30 minutes ran out, he would strike it. He would be up here for about 8 hours. And also that large black object is the Galley Stovepipe, known as the Charlie Noble. Now, a merchant captain named Charles Noble had a solid brass stovepipe on his ship, which was kept highly polished. And this way in the crowded harbor, men have to come back from Liberty, and you can always find it by looking at this. Also on this deck are 20 guns. And the two most guns are up front on either side. These two are known as bow chasers. The 18-pounders were bored to accommodate a 24-pound solid shot. These two would have a range of 1,000 yards. The other 18 guns at this deck are called the carronades because they were made in Cairn, Scotland. Okay, they would fire a 32-pound cannonball with a range of 400 yards. About 4 to 9 men would manage guns up here. Okay, any questions? No? Okay, let's use these two ladderways here and get down to the next deck. Okay, take your time because these ladderways are steep. Okay, this deck we're now standing on is known as the gun deck. Okay, this is the main battery of the ship. There's 30 long guns on this deck. Okay, now, these long guns would fire a 24-pound solid shot with a maximum range of 1,200 yards. Okay, these would also pierce 20 inches of hardwood at 1,000 yards. Now, about 9 to 14 men would man these guns down here. These men are very well trained to fire these shots in 2 minutes. To load and fire these guns, the gun we have to move the lines off the guns. They pull the guns back enough to load them in the front. Back up, like when it was lit, I stand aside because the recoil of this gun would jump back about 5 to 6 feet after it's fired. And also, as you notice, 18 of these long guns down here, okay, they're British-made guns. You can identify them by the Crest of King George on top of the gun barrels. And right by it is a small arrow. This is to indicate its purchasing mark. Now, these guns were purchased from the British in 1801, and later on used against them in the War of 1812. And also, above each gun, you're going to see a black leather bucket. Now, the larger ones would hold the water. It's used to wet the sponges, extinguish all the burning embers, fire the guns. And the small ones, the powder buckets, used to hold the 6-pound charge of black powder. Also on the decks are wooden tubs. Those are the match tubs. They would be half full of sand and water. This was used to extinguish the matches, slow matches after that. The small area we're now standing on is known as the refreshment area of the ship. This is over here, the scuttlebutt, will be water in here. Now when the ship left port, she carried about 48,000 gallons of fresh water for about 6 9 months at sea. Now back then, these men would only receive 2 pints of water a day. The scuttlebutt, because the scuttle, the small opening to pass up to and from. and this is a butt-ended type barrel. And also, you guys are familiar with the term rumors and gossips, because the men, when they were waiting for the water, they would exchange rumors and gossips right down there. Yeah, this is the grog tub to hold the rum. You know, it would receive a half pint a day. Yeah, half pint isn't much. You know, back then, this rum was 190 proof. It was pure alcohol.
That's what we need on board the ships.
2 pints a day. Our ship is capable of making over 50 gallons a day per man.
Now over there to the right is the barber's chair, or the multi-purpose chair. And not only for haircuts, also tooth extractions and minor surgery. But if you needed a tooth pulled back then, the surgeon was absent. The next man pulled the tooth that was cooked. And you have access to next shot's knives.
Way to go, Boone.
Just remember that. Okay, when Doc's dead, I'm next in line.
Oh, what a scary thought. Oh, no, nice.
Because I got access to the meat cleaver, right? His favorite
What's the
tool.
normal size of the crew?
There were 450 men, sir.
How many chiefs? There
There were 20 officers. I don't know about any chiefs. Okay, now all the way up forward is a large black object. This is the galley stove with the cat boots. This is where they would do all the cooking. You know, there's 3 built-in kettles in front of that stove. You really can't see from here, but that's where the number meals are boiled at. Their number meals consist of dried vegetables, usually a piece of beans. We also have meat that was very tough, once singing salt and ship's biscuit. Also on the left side is the lead barrel. That's the honest cask, full of fresh water. This is where the man was soaked the meat in with well salt and salt.
Like my ship.
Four-man bilge pump over there. The ship seeps water from the bottom. 8 men would come up here to man this pump in the seesaw-like fashion. Bring the water from down there to bring it up here and flood the whole gun deck. After that, these men would take swabs or mops and swab it out towards those scupper holes you see on the sides there with the green covers on them, push it out of the ocean. This large round object, this is known as the anchor capstan to raise and lower the anchor. Now, to operate it, these men have to take down 2 sets of these batteries on either side, get some hatch covers and cover this hatch. Take these large capstan bars up here and put them in the red pigeonholes. Now, there would be a total of over 70 men on this capstan, and it would take 45 minutes to 2 hours just to raise it up, depending on the depth of the water, the weight of the anchor, and of course the mood of the crew. And also over here, okay, this is the shot table. Got all the various projectiles they would use back then. The common 24-pound solid shot. The spar shot and the star shot here, they were used to tear up the riggings and the sails because when they were fired, they would spin. This is the canister shot here that would put musket balls, broken glass, rusty nails, and rocks in. When you hit on the other deck of the ship and scatter these sharp objects, these men were barefooted back then, and they would have their feet cut. This is the grape shot. Falling tonight, smaller balls for anti-personnel, anti-rigging rounds. That's the double-headed shot there. They'll put tar on one end of that, put it on fire. Shut off, which stick to the other ship, and hope it on fire.
Jimmy, watch out.
Matchstick. These guys. And also over there, you can see the cutlasses on the these cutlasses date back from the early 1860s. They were used by the midshipmen during the Civil War. They didn't really see action. They just used the training. Take care of all his correspondence that he may have. Here's the list of all the men who commanded the ship. It goes back to 1797, Simon Nicholson to our present-day commander, Commander David Cashman. We're also going to notice there's a big space that would go on between 1881 and the bottom through 1931. This is when they decommissioned the ship. Also in this cabin are former longboat ports. This is part of the gun deck. And during battle, these men would come in here, take these furnitures out, knock down these bulkheads, and stow them down below. They would have former longs in here, but they're outside. There's 50 guns in 2 decks. And also above each gun, you're going to see a name. Back then, these men were very superstitious. And they thought if they would name the guns, remember them every day, they'd befriend them in battle. And right over here is the American Heritage Award, presented to the ship by President Ronald Reagan, December of '87, for self-preservation. One belongs to the captain and the other one the commodore. And this desk over here to my right, that's the actual desk that was used by Captain Charles Stewart when she saw her last accident at sea back in 1815. Known as the berthing deck, okay, this is where the crew lived. Now the overhead is so low, okay, this is because they had to make a stable gun platform, because there's guns on the top, okay, they weigh over 3 tons apiece. Okay, but the average man back then, they could go from 5'2" to 5'6". So even in those days, some of these men would have to bend down on this deck. Now the crew would number from 400 to 450 men, along with 20 officers and midshipmen, 55 Marines, and 30 young boys. Okay, these boys were orphans, so they were sold to the Navy because their parents couldn't afford them anymore. Okay, and they would also act as messengers for the officers, and their main job was to bring the gunpowder to the guns during battle. Okay, they called them the powder monkeys. Now everybody couldn't fit down at one time, so what they would do is hang up about 200 hammocks, okay, so that half of the crew could sleep, the other half would be busy working on the other decks of the ship. In a few hours it would rotate. And when it was time to eat, they just dropped their hammocks on the floor, the decks, and they would eat in big flight fashion, about 8 to 10 men per group, called a mess. Also on each side, there's some wide-hanging sea bags. 3 to 5 men would share one bag for the person belongings. They didn't carry much. Also, they would hang up kerosene lanterns on each of the ladderways over here, which didn't do much. Now, forward is the sick bay. This is where the sick and wounded would be attended. Okay, if you were seaman back then, if you were sick or injured, they would put you on the decks. There was hanging beds in there, only used for officers. These would also double as an officer's coffin. If an officer were to die, he would be put in one of those beds. Okay, put cannonballs for weight, put a top over that, and throw him overboard to be buried at sea. Now, if a seaman were to die, he'd be sewed up in his hammock, along with cannonballs for weight, and throw him overboard and buried at sea. Now, there's another deck below us. That's the Orlop Deck. That was storage for supplies. Okay, that's where we live today during duty days.
Where?
Down below.
Oh, you actually live on this ship?
You guys want to take a look at that?
Yeah.
Just everything is section. Three sections. You got the
And, okay, like when you don't have duty, what do you usually do?
work section. Paint the ships.
They live over in that building where we were.
What's
Right.
this up here?
That's the cables here. You can go up here.
I don't think Doc ought to come up here.
Watch your head.
Why are we going up here?
Let's bring a line locker.
Where is that?
This is the spare room. This is where he would throw down the arms and legs down here.
Doc, you got one of them little hidey holes for our limbs?
Do we do down here?
Hey,
Whoa, big ship,
big ship.
very big.
So this was the amputation area, huh?
Sir.
Watch it. You make it. You won't.
See, all the way back there, you can see another room. That's the wardrobe pantry. This is where they would store the plates, utensils, and spices. Also, when you go in, there's a glass hatchway known as the bread room. There's a coulter down there. That's where you would store the bread. And also down there is the only region part of the ship that's left. That's 10% of the keel. Everything here is in place. And also there's a door opening. Right about there. That's the gunpowder filling room. That's one of 3. That's on the ship.
Yeah, 450
Yo, hold on. Okay, this last deck over here goes up from this main mast in the center all the way back aft. This is the quarter deck, the officer's domain. Okay, now if you look over there, you're gonna see the helm with the wheel. That's the replica. The HMS job. And by 2 men, like today, during battle, the going to be up there. So you see there's a horsepower on the side of here, there's race bar. White platform. Yeah, those are the fighting tanks. The 7 Marines up there during battle. 1 sharpshooter and the rest of the 6 reloaders. Okay, that's about it. Any questions? Any final questions?